Welcome to CosmoFactory, a podcast by Cosmoprof Worldwide Bologna, where we explore the entire cosmetics, personal care, and fragrance industry supply chain. I'm your host, Deanna Utrusky, and here at CosmoFactory, we look beyond the trends to discover the ideas, initiatives, and innovations that are truly advancing beauty. Let's get started. This episode is about data-driven scent creation, or what's being called smart fragrance. It's about technology-powered brand collaboration, about translating ingredients into products, and it's about changing consumer preferences as well as trends emerging in the scented products marketplace. With me in the CosmoFactory podcast recording booth at Cosmoprof Worldwide Bologna is my guest, Federica Libralon, Fragrance Development Manager at Scentmate by dsm-firmenich. Welcome, Federica.
Hello, Diana. Thank you so much for having me, and it's really a pleasure to be here.
Of course. No, I know you have so much interesting information to share. I'm looking forward to our conversation. I'll just start by saying, since 2020, for sure, every sector of beauty and fragrance has become a lot more digital. In fact, before I ask my first question, I will say a quick thank you to each of you listening to the CosmoFactory podcast. It's a community, really, of listeners that comes together every week from some 100 countries around the world to hear about ideas and innovations all along the beauty supply chain. These conversations would not be possible without digital technologies. And it can be so easy to take this tech for granted now that it's a part of our everyday life. Please know that I am sincerely grateful that you're listening to CosmoFactory right now and every week. I don't take it for granted that with your help, we are keeping the conversations that get started at Cosmoprof each year. We keep these conversations going throughout the year with your help here on CosmoFactory. I thank you for being here as a listener. So let's you and I, Federica, move from podcast tech to beauty tech. Scentmate by dsm-firmenich launched in 2021 as a platform where independent brand leaders and beauty entrepreneurs could create a brief, collaborate with the fragrance development team, receive samples, and even manage ordering and fulfillment. Your role on the team is in fragrance evaluation, or at least that's part of your work. Tell us a bit about your job. What are the responsibilities you have and the actual activities you spend time doing?
Sure. So, fragrance evaluator is responsible to evaluate the fragrances in order to propose the best option to the customer. And we do that blending the creativity of perfumers. We talk with them, and we try to understand which is also the business need, working with different departments. So basically this.
Yeah, no, excellent. I love that. Excellent. Thank you for that. So it sounds like you translate ingredients into products. You're coordinating with perfumers, with your customers, as well as your own awareness, I would imagine, of their end consumer. And then, of course, literal scents and scented products. Help me understand how you integrate the art of fragrance with the practical work, right, of market analysis, of team management. Sometimes people call the work that I do communications work, but I'm starting to think that someone in your role needs to be sort of a communications genius. There's a lot of different minds in the mix here. How do you integrate all of that?
Yeah, it's quite challenging because we need to really switch our mindset based on which type of department we are talking to. So, for example, when we talk with perfumers, we try to focus on the ingredients. We go deeply in the scientific explanation, and we try to focus really in details on expressing the fragrance from a scientific point of view.
Yes.
While when we talk with the sales department, we try to explain the fragrance in a more 360 degrees perspective and a customer perspective. So we go less deeply on the ingredient side, and we explain with adjectives the fragrance. So it's blending different departments' perspectives and try to deliver the best product based on which type of section we're working with.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Let's talk about fragrance ingredients directly, since you mentioned that. Can you say something about new ingredients that you're working with, or what's going on in the ingredient space for you?
So actually, regarding the ingredients, we try to blend the trends of the moment together with also the scientific part that is behind. So we saw an increased demand of upcycled ingredients and natural raw materials. For this reason, we try to invest our technologies in that. And for example, one of the ingredients that we really are focusing on is jasmine sambac from India, where we not only try to source it in a natural way, but also we focus on the whole process of production. This ingredient is used, the jasmine sambac petals are used in India for the ritualities of.
Yeah, so you're what you're telling me is the flower petals from the jasmine are used in rituals, right, by the people of India, and then what happens?
Exactly. So are used during the ceremonies in India, and all the petals are not used anymore after the ritual. So we tend to recollect them and reuse them in order to obtain the fragrance ingredient. And this is an example of an upcycled ingredient from our company. We also focus on new technologies in the scientific point of view. We try to connect, for example, emotions with the ingredients, the fragrance ingredients that we are adding then to the fragrances. So we try to invest also in finding the right ingredient to trigger the emotion in the brain. And with this technology, we saw that is embracing a lot the trend, the actual trend of psychological stimulation. Mm-hmm. And regarding the olfactive trends, we are really focusing on the new gourmands, sesame, pistachio trends. So milky and rice comforting ingredients are really our focus right now.
So interesting. I have not heard yet about sesame as a fragrance trend, so I'll have to start smelling in a new way. I like that. So you have the advantage of the Scentmate digital model in your work. I'm imagining, you talked earlier about what you do as in terms of fragrance evaluation a bit. I'm thinking that there must be typical fragrance evaluation work, and then there is fragrance evaluation with digital data. What is different because of digital?
So actually, we use our digital data in order to focus more on which category, in which market we can work on. So it's really more a focus on how to use our resources, our focus, our attention in a very efficient way.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. So it sounds like the digital tech is very much a time-saving tool for you. Is that true?
Exactly. We can focus on the most important part of our job thanks to the technology of these data.
Yeah, so interesting. Let's think about your customer. As I think I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, the Scentmate platform was really developed as an interface for the customer, right? I'm trying to imagine this. Is this sort of online shopping for the B2B fragrance brand owner or a scented products brand leader? What sort of user experience is this maybe similar to for people listening who don't yet understand what Scentmate is about?
Actually, it's very automatic the way that the customer can work with our platform. It's just a first way to meet us and try to understand how we work and be in contact with us. So it's just the first step. After this website first approach, we usually try to be in contact with the customers also in a personal way. So it's not a matter of substituting the personal relationship. It's just a way to reach out to us in a quicker and faster way.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. No, it's wonderful to hear you say that. I've gotten to learn about so many interesting digital technologies, even with my podcast interviews here at Cosmoprof this year, but certainly throughout the year. And it's something I'm hearing over and over about. It's almost a partnership, isn't it, between digital technology and then the human piece, and so much of the support that people bring, has to do with creativity, has to do with relationships. It's very interesting to think of it as just, like you said, sort of the introduction piece of it. Can you share more about the process?
Sure. So we use this data-driven data and the platform that are our technological part, like the more digital part, in order to really enhance our work. So it's just a first approach and just a help for us to strengthen then the creativity of perfumers. Mm-hmm. It's exactly a collaboration between the digitalization and the creativity that is absolutely strengthened by that.
Yeah, let's think about that a little bit further. I know, of course, there are perfumers on your team, right? Professional perfumers. I'm wondering, do they work directly with data from Scentmate? Are they sort of downloading this in some sort of Excel sheet, or how is this data maybe interpreted, or who is interpreting it, right, to kickstart that creative process for the perfumers?
Actually, the whole team can use those data in order to enhance our work.
Sure.
So we try to collaborate and interpret the data based on our department. For example, sales department use the data from the customers in order to enhance the demand and focus really on what is more useful for the customer scenario of the moment. Marketing department use the data in order to really understand the trends and give this market information from a broader view. And evaluation team can use those data in order to really understand the olfactive profile. And after all those data are gathered, we can give to the perfumer the relevant information to start his creative process.
Yeah, no, I like it. It sounds like in a way you're making sure that the perfumer does not get overwhelmed with data.
Exactly.
I think that's very helpful. As a creative professional myself, I know overwhelm is possible. So I think that's wise. Not that I'm a perfumer, but I like this. I like this a lot. So it seems to me too that through your work you would have a pretty fun view, if I may, of consumer fragrance preferences or even brand trends. What are you seeing from your customers?
Actually, from our customers, we see not only an olfactive trend of this seek of comfort, of milky vanilla fragrances that are really going into the childish or maybe food industry preferences.
Yeah.
So new gourmands, like we said before, pistachio or mononote in perfumeries that are referring to very comforting fragrances, but also trends about well-being and functional fragrances. So we really see this increase of functionalities on the fragrance. We see this connection between the psychological need of a comforting fragrance, not only from the olfactive point of view, but also from a really functional point of view. So we started using the emotion technology in our fragrances really to have a scientifically proven technology that can trigger the emotion on the client, on the customer, and really enhance this psychological stimulation.
Can you explain the emotion technology? That's something that was developed by dsm-firmenich, yes? And then you get to borrow it.
Exactly. So this technology refers to the combination between the fMRI analysis of the brain stimulation and the response of the customers in general. So whenever those two analyses matches, we can also understand that this is a proven and solid response.
Right. So the customer says to you, that makes me feel good. And then you look at the brain scan, and the brain says, that makes me feel good.
Yeah, we can go even with more granularity. We have actually 3 types of emotions, that is happiness, energy, and relax, and the focus. So we can really say when the customer says, when like the test says, this fragrance relax me, we see that is stimulating this part of the brain that is referring to the last relax.
Mm-hmm. That's so cool. Thank you for sharing that. And what about scents that might be popular now, or emerging in popularity, or that you expect to be popular in the future? What can you say there?
Well, actually, for the future, we see really an holistic product experience. So it's actually a trend right now also, but we see a lot of potential for the future. Customers try to not only seek fragrances that are just an aesthetic object, but they want something that can be more fluid, can go over in other categories. So we are seeing really fragrances that are developed at the beginning for fine fragrance, for luxury perfumes, for niche. They are starting be asked also for other categories like, for example, hair care or laundry. Mm-hmm. And in fact, we see, for example, a lot of softeners, scent boosters that are fragrance inspired. And even the opposite, we see a lot of requests of fine fragrances that are starting being inspired to laundry. So, for example, spraying to ourselves a fragrance that is smelling like our favorite softener. Even connecting this with the trend I was talking before of comfortness, of like family ideal, let's say.
So interesting. You're talking about sort of, the gourmands and the comfort, almost comfort food. You mentioned even sort of that memory of childhood. And then, like you're saying, sort of being surrounded with warm laundry, perhaps, exactly. And that sense of home. There's like a safety, a cocooning sort of feeling to this. Did you have more to share in terms of sort of future forward scents that we should be thinking about?
Yeah, also, like right now we see a lot of personalization of fragrances. So brands and fragrances are trying to focus on expressing the identity of each person. So the customers want unique fragrances that really express the identity of the individual. And this is like a really personalized approach to the category.
Yeah, interesting. And I want to go back. In your answer, you used a term that I've probably heard before, but I haven't given it much thought. You said mononote, in terms of mononote fragrances. And there's something, for me, it makes me think, it gives me a sense of simplicity, but it also gives me like a sense of richness, because there maybe aren't other notes or more notes to inform a scent, that it's like, I don't want to say heavy, but there's something, I don't know, in my imagination it feels kind of dense. Can you say more about this mononote concept and where you're seeing it show up, what it means? What does this mean for fragrance? Because there's less blending there, isn't there?
Actually, it's the opposite.
Tell me.
This trend is referring to the layering concept. So we see a lot of requests on fragrances that are maybe a little bit more simple at the beginning, with a straightforward note, but those are used in order to personalize the fragrance with other fragrances that are purchased by the customer. So many times customers want to personalize and have a unique scent, so they spray at first one note and then they add another fragrance, layering it, and then furthermore. So it's really try to combine different fragrances in order to have its personal unique fragrance.
That's fantastic. No, thank you for teaching me that. I really did not know. I love it. Well, Federica, this was a great conversation. I know more about fragrance and certainly about Scentmate as well. I thank you for being a guest here on the CosmoFactory podcast.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure for me.
Yes, you're welcome.
Thank you so much for listening. If you find the CosmoFactory podcast useful, please take a moment to leave us a 5-star review and share your thoughts so even more cosmetic industry professionals can discover the CosmoFactory. I'm Deanna Utrusky, Please join me again next Tuesday for a new episode of the CosmoFactory podcast.